Well, I've got a few little tidbits I think you're going to want to see, and I've got a few more little tweets to share with you about the vice presidential debate. And then I want to deal with where Vice President Pence was upset with Kamalalala because of the Knights of Columbus comment that she had made. And so we're going to find out all about that. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and there's just lots of things to share. This is from Twitter support, and guess what they're doing now? Yeah, as we continue to protect the integrity of election 2020, right. Conversation on Twitter, we're announcing new significant updates today that will bring more context and encourage thoughtful consideration before tweeting. So what are they going to do? Well, tweets which include premature claims of a victory in an election will be labeled and direct people to our official U.S. election page in Explore. Tweets that encourage others to interfere with the election process or results will be removed. Well, then remove this because Twitter, you are interfering with the election process. This is interference with our process right here. I think at minimum, the Democrat Party needs to be adding this to the FEC filings because this is working for the Democrat Party. And that should be some kind of donation there in kind or something, because this is just not right. And you go on starting next week, and that would be this week coming up here. When people attempt to retweet a tweet with a misleading information label, they will see a prompt directing them to credible information about the topic before they can amplify it. Yeah, who's going to be putting out that, quote, credible information? Yeah, I've experienced that on Facebook. Credible. It's been fact checked. Yeah, look at the fact checkers. Fact checkers are all Democrats. Yeah. It's just frustrating me no end. To continue to address the risk of misinformation, we'll add warnings and further restrictions on tweets with misleading information labels from accounts owned by U.S. political figures. Guess who that means? Yeah, they're going to be doing stuff with President Trump. I cannot believe that an organization like this can treat the President of the United States in such a way. It just boggles my mind. They would never, ever have done anything like this to Obama. And believe me, Obama lied a lot. But, oh no, don't fact check him. No, we can't do that. Like Kamalalala, man, they should have fact checked her. Boy, she lied so much. I mean, it was like everything that came out of her mouth was a lie during that debate. It was horrible. Anyway, let's go on. U.S.-based accounts with 100,000 plus followers or tweets that obtain significant engagement. A lot of those are going to be conservatives, like Bongino is actually, he's the one that retweeted this that I got it from. And it's like, yeah, his account, he's one that's going to be fact-checked by them. Oh, I'm just appalled by this. We'll temporarily ask people to add their own commentary before amplifying content by prompting quote tweets instead of retweets. Okay. This was happening tonight when I was trying to do, just be on Twitter. You have to do a quote tweet anymore instead of just a retweet. And for those who aren't on Twitter, because I know some of you aren't, that's the difference. When you click this little button here, it pops up here, let me show you. It pops up the thing so you put a comment in. It used to if you just wanted to retweet it without putting a comment in, then you could just click that and it would retweet. It gave you a little drop down menu and you could choose. But now you have to actually add comments. Yes, so that we hope this encourages everyone to consider why they are amplifying a tweet and brings more thoughts, reactions, and perspectives to the conversation. You know what? I don't retweet something if I don't want to. I think it through first. Duh. But hey, I guess they got to put that for the liberals that just like to go through and click retweet on stuff. We're taking more steps to encourage thoughtful amplification by preventing tweets that have been followed by and liked by accounts you don't follow from showing up in your timeline. So more restriction that's going to be happening. You will only surface trends in the For You tab in the U.S. that include additional context. This will more quickly let people know why something is trending and also help reduce the potential for misleading information to spread. Now, the reason I'm laughing is because the reason they're doing this is because we are so stinking effective. And we get things trending, when all of us and the researchers and Mr. 17 people, we all start getting on a topic, we can make it trend. And they don't like that because they don't want our topics trending. So, yeah, there's more here. There's more coming. Our goal is to continue to provide access to critical information and encourage participation in the conversation during election 2020. And there's more. You can go to this. Additional steps we're taking. I tell you, this is, yeah. So I had to put that in. This is election interference right here. There's such a focus on the Russians. Well, the real focus needs to be not on the foreign interference, but on the domestic interference. And I'm not the only one who is unhappy about it. And of course, we all understand why they're doing this. And, it's to silence us because we have such a strong voice. And they fear us because they know we're effective. So just keep at it, folks. We're doing the best we can. Get the information out there. Well, here's the one that I was going to show you. Well, I kind of did on the live stream, but it was giving me fits. The reason it was a computer issue because I had to reboot my computer, and because of that, it rebooted it weird. And so it was when I shut it down and reboot it again, it was fine. So it was just that was giving this. But here is the video I was going to show you. This is repeated refusal by Joe Biden and Kamalalala Harris to say whether they would go along with packing the Supreme Court is an insult to the American people. Now, this is actually over 2 minutes long. I'm just going to play a little bit of it, but I'll leave the link down below so you can get the whole thing, because this right here, it just puts together like a bunch of times that they say different stuff, but they're always saying the same thing. They're not going to tell us. So here we go.
In the courts, and I know that you said yesterday you aren't going to answer the question until after the election, but this is the #1 thing that I've been asked about from viewers in the past couple of days.
Well, you've been asked by the viewers who are probably Republicans who don't want me continuing to talk about what they're doing to the court right now.
Well, sir, don't the voters deserve to know?
No, they don't.
Do you support packing the court, adding more justices? What would you?
I think it's a legitimate question to ask, but you know what this is all about. They'll know my opinion on court packing when the election is over. Now, look, I know it's a great question, y'all, and I don't blame you for asking.
And
Senator Harris.
People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that'll become the issue.
Would you?
Okay, I wanted to back up just a little bit right here. If you notice what's behind here, I really think it's very interesting that this part, especially, this is the Declaration of Independence, and the part that's right behind them is all about the new guard and that we have a right to to change out the guard if they're not serving their purpose. So I just thought this was kind of interesting back there. But this whole thing, I mean, that's what it was. It's just clips of them avoiding the question for various stupid reasons. Now, the reason that they're doing this is because they're in a situation where they have about half of their base, at least half, if not, 2/3 of their base, are these insane extreme leftists, the socialists, the communists. They have really gone off the deep end. And so they can't, if they say they're going to pack the court, then the extreme leftists are going to be real happy, but they've still got that other part of, probably a half to a third, maybe only a third anymore, of their base that's centrist. And this is going to be a base election. Okay. Now, this was something Dan Bongino's been saying. And I was thinking along the lines too, because when I watched the debate between these two, Trump was very appealing to me. I mean, there were several times where it was like, oh yeah, there's a good one. Ooh, what a zinger. And I really appreciated the zingers. All right. So for me, as a member of his base, it was good. And when Trump can do this and expose the base issues like this, he puts Biden in a position where Biden is going to have to either deny a large chunk of his base, which got him to where he is, because, he had to make a deal with Bernie Sanders. He didn't just all of a sudden, win. Bernie kind of stepped down because they didn't think that somebody who was an out-and-out socialist could win overall. And they knew that somebody who was an out-and-out socialist couldn't win against Donald Trump. So that's the situation with this, as far as I can tell. That's what I think is probably going on. I agree with Bongino on this, that the reason is likely because of President Trump is trying to get him to deny part of his base. And he's avoiding the question because he knows if he says something, it is going to tick off part of his base. And he can't afford it. He really can't, because the numbers are too close. And actually, I don't think they're too close, but in the polls. So I just thought I would share that with you. I'll leave the link to this down below if you want to watch the whole 2 minutes. And this was just one of her stances. She said she was absolutely open to court packing. And, part of it too is she says about the fracking thing, she says, Joe Biden, he's not for fracking. Well, is it possible that she's thinking that he might not be for it, but she is? And since, he's going to get in there, he's going to win, and then he's going to step down. By the way, I do agree. I heard on somebody on Rush. I don't think it was Rush himself. I think it was somebody on Rush, call in. And they were saying that the reason for the 25th Amendment, Nancy bringing that back around again, because remember, they tried it with Rod Rosenstein. You remember, with the wire and stuff? They were going to try to do that. But the reason they're bringing it back is that they know they can't get it on Trump, but they've got to set things up for Biden, because he's not going to make 4 years if he would happen to get in, which I don't think there's any way he can legally. But something else I wanted to point out. I know I have a lot of naysayers about Pence. I really understand this, folks, but the 17 team is pretty smart, and they have been trying to take into account all the contingencies. One very important factor is the 25th Amendment, you see, because the 25th Amendment can remove a president, or can at least put the vice president in there because of the president being incapacitated in some way, either mentally or physically. Well, this is one of my arguments. This is one of the reasons why I am pretty sure Pence is who he looks to be, that he is not the things. There's a lot of rumors out there about him, but I think those have been spread by the deep state to throw people off. Because, and especially, I'm not going to go into it, but the proton mail thing with Ryan and all that. No, folks, that is so bogus. It doesn't take much time to figure that one out, that it is not real. It's faked. So please, don't give me flack on that, because it is not real. But the reason that I think in this case that Pence has to be genuine, and I really, honestly, if you look at his body language when he's with Trump, especially early on when they had some good job numbers and stuff was going really well before all the virus and everything. He was standing in the back. He was beaming, like whenever he'd watch Trump, he was like a fanboy. I mean, it was, if you watched his body language, he was very proud to be associated with that guy, with President Trump. So here's the reason that I really think that the 25th Amendment proves that Pence is a good guy. Because if they would have put somebody in there who was deep state, and I know about the letter. Okay, I know that his wife got one of the letters at the funeral. I understand that too. But if they would have put a deep stater in there, then they could have, the Democrats could have enacted this coup. They could have used the 25th Amendment. The only thing saving Trump from the 25th Amendment is Pence. Yeah, because it has to be, the vice president has to approve it. And, if he's not going to approve it, if he's not going to be behind it, they also have to have a couple of the cabinet members, I believe. But if the vice president doesn't agree that there's something wrong with the president, then they can't do it. And so if the Mr. 17 and their team would have put in somebody who was deep state, and there was always that possibility that that person might turn, that would be a very stupid and dangerous thing to do. The only person that they could put in there, since he was the only one who could block the 25th Amendment, would be somebody who was absolutely 100% reliable and truthful. And that's why I really, I have other reasons, because I know people who know him personally, and I really cannot believe the stories that are out there. I don't believe in one of them, because I honestly do believe that he is who he claims to be. But let's get going. I got to go on. I wanted to remind you of this, that I said, I don't know when I said it, probably on the live stream. But just remember that if you have had COVID and you've recovered from it and you're without symptoms, because here's what the CDC says. They say that it's been 10 days since symptoms first appeared, at least 10 days, 24 hours with no fever without the use of fever-reducing medications, and your other symptoms are improving. They said that you're not contagious anymore. And that's what President Trump's doctor has said, that he's not contagious anymore. So anybody who is in that situation should no longer have to wear a mask, because the mask is okay. I put that down in the second one here. The masks are needed, at least this is what they're telling us. The masks are needed to either protect the person who is wearing them from the virus, from other people contaminating them and giving the virus to them, or they're to protect other people just in case that person has, is asymptomatic and could be spreading it without knowing it. Okay, neither of those apply anymore to anyone who has recovered from COVID. So everyone who has recovered from COVID should no longer have to wear a stinking mask. It's not necessary. If you're talking about science, this is science. Science says that you only wear the mask to either keep yourself from getting the virus or to keep other people from getting it from you. Well, if you have had it and you've recovered, you can't get the virus again. And at least they're saying for 3 months at least. I mean, they did put that caveat on there, but for 3 months, hey, you don't have to wear that mask, because you can't give it to somebody, you can't get it, you're free. And so I think President Trump is now free. He doesn't have to social distance, nothing, because he's like invincible. You just can't touch him on it anymore. And here's the CDC. I'll put that link down below, so you have that too. It's different if you have really bad, severely weakened immune systems and stuff like that. It might be a different situation if you had really bad COVID, you had a lot of the really bad symptoms, but not if you had the minor ones, and you didn't get really, really sick. So anyway, I wanted to point this out to you because I'm not sure at this point. I don't remember what I've said because I've recorded this. This is my third time. I hope it works this time. This Amber Athey, who is Washington editor for Spectator USA, anyway, Daily Caller also. And she says the Trump campaign is leaving a ticket for Tupac Shakur at tonight's VP debate because Kamalalala Harris called him her favorite rapper alive. And then Tim Murtaugh here, who is the campaign communications director, he says true. They really did. I just think it's so funny they're trolling her. Well, anyway, in the course of her comments here, she said this is not a joke, and it was confirmed by Trump campaign senior advisor. So yes, that is true. Well, then we go down to some of the comments under here in this Wayne Dunlap. I've got it up here. Fair debate. The moderator of tonight's VP debate literally wrote the book on Nancy Pelosi, titled Madam Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Lessons of Power. Are we really supposed to expect her to be an unbiased moderator? That's Charlie Kirk said that. And then another person down here said, highly recommend he bring Tulsi Gabbard. Can you imagine her being a debate moderator? But listen to this.
A prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people.
That was pretty good. Yeah. And my only question is, Tulsi, why are you still a Democrat? I mean, seriously, what in the world are the policies that the Democrat Party now stands for that you still support? Because she doesn't sound like the kind of Democrat that we're seeing, you know? Kamalalala is pretty radical. And Tulsi Gabbard isn't radical. So we're getting a lot of the centrists are starting to move over to the Republican Party because the Democrat Party is not what it used to be. And they're very disappointed with it. So that's my only question to her. But yeah, wouldn't she be a good moderator? What I actually think they ought to do for debates is I think they should have no moderator. I think they should just put the two people on stage and give, like President Trump, give him 10 minutes to ask any questions of Biden and then give Biden 10 minutes to ask any questions of President Trump. And just each 10 minutes, all you got is somebody that says, well, their 10 minutes are up, now it switches. So I think that would be a very interesting way. Forget about the moderators. That way you don't have to worry if they're, on one side or the other. And you just go back and forth and back and forth. And I think it would be very interesting because then you're going to hear the questions. Trump would bring up some really good questions from Biden. And then Biden would come back and he'd hit some hard things with Trump. And I think you would get questions that are more interesting and more what the people want to hear than, it is with the moderators. It's just not good. This was a very interesting thing that Methods caught. And he said, how did Kamalalala know it was a good segue if she wasn't supposed to have the questions? Because listen to this.
Taxes, rolling back regulation,
thank you,
American
Vice President
energy,
Pence.
Fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's on the
Vice
line
President
if
Pence.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
That's a good segue into our third topic,
segue.
which is about the economy.
Did you hear that? It's a great segue. Well, how do you know? You're not supposed to have the questions, right? Yeah. Well, I don't believe them when they say that. And then this one I'm just going to put down at the bottom so you can look through it. Name something more authentic than Kamalalala Harris. So there you go. Lots of interesting things. Some really weird ones. The Tooth Fairy. So anyway. Well, during the debate, there was a section. By the way, if you don't know how to get the transcript, you go down here and you click on this and you can open up the transcript. And usually, if they have the closed captions, it comes from the closed captions. So if you're bringing up one like mine, sometimes it's not accurate to what I'm actually saying. The closed captions can be kind of funny. I like reading them sometimes. But yeah, because mine, when it says, hi, this is Deb with truthification, well, they make it truth vacation. So a little ticked that they do that. I used to go back and change them all, but frankly, folks, I've got like over 700 videos. I just can't keep doing that. But Anyway, so listen to this because they mention something when they're talking about Amy Coney Barrett.
Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And she's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees, you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and
Thank you.
pro-marriage views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place, that
Thank you, Vice President.
Okay, so yeah, then the moderator had to come in and kind of rescue Kamalalala there because of this thing about the Knights of Columbus. So when I heard that, I thought, well, I wonder what that's all about. Well, I went looking, and this is what I found out. That the National Review had this article. This was in January 12th of 2019, so been a little bit ago, but evidently we had this one guy, this Brian Buescher, I think it's Buescher, Brian Buescher, President Trump's nominee for District Court in Nebraska, and she asked some really odd questions. Well, they're not really odd because she wasn't the only one to ask them. But she was talking about, well, you've been a member of the Knights of Columbus, an all-male society comprised primarily of Catholic men. In 2016, Carl Anderson, leader of the Knights of Columbus, described abortion as, quote, a legal regime that has resulted in more than 40 million deaths. Okay, well, that's a true fact. Mr. Anderson went on to say that, quote, abortion is the killing of the innocent on a massive scale. Oh, another true statement. Were you aware that the Knights of Columbus opposed a woman's right to choose when you joined the organization? Makes it sound like a crime that he did. Well, anyway, I'm going to show you the document here. Here was the nominee, and when they have somebody who's a nominee, the Committee on the Judiciary in the Senate has a questionnaire that they give. It's like a standard one. It asks about their publishing credits and, you know, what articles they've written, what courts they've been in, and, you know, what decisions they've been part of, and all of those kinds of things. And then they had a second one because the hearing that they were at in the Senate had to be cut really short because they had a briefing on something like Syria or something like that that was really important that they all had to go to. So they cut it short, and I'm kind of glad they did because it was bad enough the people that asked him questions. I think it was White House and Hirono who were the ones who actually asked questions, and then Hirono actually had more questions in, well, kind of the same questions over again in the questionnaire. So anyway, he was confirmed, by the way, 51-40. So that was, it says received January 23rd, 19. I don't know if that's when he was, this hearing took place December 5th, I believe, of probably 2018 then. So I don't know. And then up here it says 7/24/19. So I'm not sure when the guy actually started, but anyway, I'm going to subject you to Maisie. I'm really sorry here, folks. You can double speed it. You remember the little things down at the bottom? You can double speed her. But anyway, she started out asking them a question. There were 4 men that were being nominated for various positions, not all judges, but her first question was asking them if they'd ever sexually harassed anybody. And so, of course, they all go, no. And then she asked if they'd ever been, like, settled any cases or anything about that. I don't know. This woman is so warped. I can't even imagine what her life is like. It must be miserable. But anyway, here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Buescher. You have described yourself as an avidly pro-life person. You have called abortion immoral, and the Supreme Court's decision recognizing a constitutional right to abortion unfortunate. You have stated unequivocally that you will not compromise on abortion based on your moral fabric. So I think I heard you say that you do recognize the validity of the Supreme Court's decision in Roe v. Wade, but you have a moral duty to consider abortion to be illegal. So if you have any cases before you that raise the question of a woman's right to choose, would you recuse yourself?
Senator, as a political candidate, as I noted previously, I did run as a pro-life candidate. And with regard to being a judge, if I'm so fortunate to be confirmed with the United States District Court for the District of Nebraska, I will apply all requirements of recusal and evaluate each case on a case-by-case basis. And with regard to my personal beliefs, I'm going to have no problem personally applying the United States Supreme Court precedent, including Roe versus Wade, as that will be my obligation.
I realize that you say that when you were a candidate, you articulated certain views, which I assume were strongly held views, and they don't suddenly go away just because you become a judge. In fact, you've also said that you've advocated going after that states, because if you're not going to directly overturn Roe v. Wade, which you can't as a district court judge, should you be confirmed, you suggested that the advocates for anti-choice go after abortion bit by enacting laws that go as far as they can without being invalidated. And many of these laws will come before your court should you be confirmed. So I don't know what you mean by laws that can go as far as they can. For example, would you consider banning abortion after a doctor can detect a fetal heartbeat as a law that doesn't go as far as to be overturned?
Senator, as I mentioned previously, I did take positions when I ran for Attorney General in a variety of areas. And with regard to the particular fact pattern or suggestion situation that you mentioned, I think it'd be inappropriate for me to answer that question because that could be an issue that would come before me at the Federal District Court of Nebraska, as you actually noted, and under the judicial canons, I think.
So, yes, and I know that you're going to stick with that position, but the thing is that I think I certainly need to have reassurances, a level of assurance that you will be able to be fair, but it is very clear that Roe v. Wade leaves judges quite a lot of room at the lower courts in order to make certain decisions. So these are some of the kinds of laws that are already being contemplated. The one that I just mentioned where banning abortion after a doctor can detect a fetal heartbeat, banning abortion after 6 weeks, banning abortion even in cases of rape and incest, requiring the state to investigate and approve of the reason the woman wants the abortion. So these are all matters that various states are already considering. And I realize you're not going to take a position, but the fact that you have considered the issue of choice to be a moral obligation for you, and that you have advocated that you would support laws that chip away at the woman's right to choose, I do not feel assured that that you will be able to put aside your personal feelings.
And, the thing is, all of them, all the Democrats just seem so focused in on the abortion issue. It's like when it comes to judges, there's nothing else. That's the only thing they really care about. Well, not totally. You're going to find out, in this document here. And this is the document. I'll leave it. But it started out, it has mostly Democrats that are asking questions. In fact, I think all of them are. I thought maybe Kennedy said he was going to put something in here, but I didn't see anything from him. So all of them I've seen. Durbin had some questions. Coons had some questions. Feinstein. And then Mazie Hirono had these. And then after that was Kamalalala. So Coons seemed to be really worried. A couple of them, actually, Durbin, I think, and Coons, seemed to be really worried that this guy was had been a member of the Federalist Society, which is a very conservative group. And so then they started going after his membership with the Knights of Columbus. And like I said, this is Mazie Hirono. Not only did she ask him questions there, but she turns around and she asks more questions here. And they're just so focused. Well, the Knights of Columbus has taken a number of extreme positions. So evidently being pro-life is now an extreme position. Yeah. Well, another one is this Proposition 8. Man, they were not happy about that because the Knights of Columbus stood against it. Well, the Proposition 8 was back in 2000 something or other. I don't know, like 2008, I'm thinking, somewhere in there, 2009. And Proposition 8 was where California defined marriage as between a man and a woman. Well, the majority of the people, it went on the ballot, and the majority of the people voted for it. They wanted that to be the law of California. So what happens? It goes to court. What happened in the court? Well, there was a gay judge, and the gay judge ruled that it was not constitutional. And that's where the big fight, it was not a pleasant thing, but it was an activist judge that did that. And what you have to remember when you're listening to Mazie or when you're reading these questions is that this is how the left looks at judges. Because for them, the judges on the left, this is what they do. They don't rule according to what the law actually says. They rule according to whatever their activist position is. So if they don't like a certain law, like I said, this Proposition 8 is a perfect example. The people of California voted to have Proposition 8. They voted that marriage should be between one man and woman. And this judge enacted legislation to overturn it. So really serious situation when you get these judges in there that do this. Well, again, they were, the Knights of Columbus. Do you intend to end your membership with this organization? And it's like, why? So now judges can't be like in the Knights of Columbus or involved in a religious organization because it has political stances? It just seems really odd. Is this what we're requiring of our judges? And he just keeps coming back every time he says it. He says, if confirmed, I will abide by the Code of Conduct of United States Judges. And he says, and will not affiliate with any organization in violation of the code. But he's not saying that the Knights of Columbus violate the code. He's just saying that, yeah, well, I'm just going to go by the law. I'm going to do what the Code of Conduct says, and I'll abide by that. So he kind of steps around it. He does a good job doing that. But, and then look what she asks here. This is Mazie. She says, will you recuse yourself from all cases in which the Knights of Columbus has taken a position? Do you believe that? So they took a position on gay marriage. They took a position on pro-life. And so she wants him to recuse himself on any of those. Would she ask, like that gay judge in California, would she ask him to recuse himself because the matter at hand, the case had to do with homosexuality? Oh, no, she would never imagine doing that. But, we just want conservatives to recuse themselves from anything conservative. Now, you watch with Amy Coney Barrett, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to, first of all, try to get her to do the same thing that they're doing here with this guy. And this is why Vice President Pence was saying, hey, I don't want this to happen with Amy Coney Barrett. But it's going to happen. This is the same kind of thing they're going to do. And so they're going to try to get her to recuse herself with anything having to do with abortion because they know how she's going to vote. And the big thing is, actually, if you look at the law for Roe v. Wade, it's actually not constitutional. It was not constitutional. It was decided emotionally and not constitutionally. And that's why a lot of people have problems with it. So, and even if it is repealed, it doesn't eliminate abortion. It takes it down to the state level, and then the states will have to decide. And I'm not sure there's any state that's going to say no completely. Maybe some of the ones in the South would. Even Indiana. We have some really good abortion laws. I will tell you that when Pence was governor here, he enacted some really good legislation because it requires the fetal remains to be buried, requires a lot of waiting period, and all of the information they have to be given and everything. Really, as much as he could, he did a good job with those. Other than just outright, banning it. That was probably as close as we were going to get. And I think he did a really good job enacting that. So anyway, but yeah, she talks about the Knights of Columbus and, oh, look, they said that Knights of Columbus said that they are supporting the Trump administration's efforts to bar clinics that provide abortion services or referrals from receiving federal family planning funds under Title X funds. Well, yeah, because they shouldn't be, if you're doing family planning, that should not involve killing a member of your family. So, and this is really weird, though. I'm not sure exactly what they mean here because it says, and that a growing body of research indicates that contraception even alters a woman's ability to choose a more genetically suited spouse because contraception suppresses fertility and its corresponding hormones. That's kind of an odd thing. So I'd never heard that before. Whatever. But changes her ability to choose a more genetically suited spouse. I don't know. That's one of the KFC. That's one of their beliefs. But anyway, or at least somebody has done that. And she was referring to articles that people were talking about. And he says, I'm not even familiar with the article you're talking about. Any author in the Knights of Columbus publication does not have authority to bind the organization or any of its 2 million members on any given political issue. So she was trying to get him to basically say, you need to just step down and you can't have any opinions whatsoever. Well, tell that to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well, of course, you have a hard time doing that now, but you should have told it to her back then because Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a lot of political statements in her last few years. A lot. Well, anyway, the Knights of Columbus are mentioned extensively here as you go through, and about, let's see where we go. This is where we get into, these are, page 38 is where Kamalalala starts. And so, yep, she brings it up to him, and she asks him about that. And do you agree with Mr. Anderson that abortion is the killing of innocent on a massive scale? And he says, well, I didn't write on that. I joined the Knights of Columbus when I was 18. And, he says, I don't know if I was aware when I joined it, what their stance was on different things. But then he pretty much steps back and says each time that she's asking him these things, because the way she does it, she is so accusatory in how she forms her questions. This is Kamalalala. It's the prosecutor in her, and she does this. She makes a lot of accusations when she's doing this. And so, well, there's the link to it if you want to say that. But anyway, she asks him questions. It's almost like, when did you stop beating your wife? Questions. So they're trying to get him, and he's doing a good job of walking around them and saying, look, I'm going to be a judge. You have to put your personal feelings aside and your beliefs. What I thought was really interesting about Mazie Hirono in that video clip I showed you is that she thinks that, the conservative judges can't put their beliefs aside and make decisions separate. But the irony of it is that the conservatives are the only ones who do. The liberals don't. The liberals can't. So, anyway, you can just go through and you can see all of the information on this. I mean, she was just see, there's the Proposition 8 again, and just trying to get him nailed on these things. and like the adoption thing, and yeah. So she has a lot of different questions that I'd have a hard time answering that one by trying to skirt it. He does a good job here, but I'm sorry. Is being gay or lesbian an immutable characteristic? No. And probably people don't like me for saying that, but I have reasons. So, have gay and lesbian Americans been subject to discrimination in the past? And pretty much he's saying, look, I can't rule on these because it may be something that comes before the court. So I can't tell you something here. I can't talk about hypotheticals. And even Ruth Bader Ginsburg was one that kind of set that precedence, and she said they shouldn't do that, you know? So, anyway, she's also getting into the whole thing about minimum sentencing. And she would like to have an assurance from him that he would not uphold minimum sentencing. And it's really interesting. I gotta show you this, folks, because guess who appears? Looky. She's talking about, please identify instances where you thought a mandatory minimum sentence was unjustly applied to a defendant. Former Judge John Gleeson. Yeah, now if you don't know, he's the guy that Judge Sullivan with the Flynn case asked to write an amicus brief to pretty much say why the book should be thrown at Flynn and Flynn should be jailed like for the rest of his life. But this is so funny because former Judge John Gleeson has criticized mandatory minimums in various opinions he has authored and has taken proactive efforts to remedy unjust sentences that result from mandatory minimums. So here's the guy who stands up. He's the champion of unjust sentences. And what does he do? He turns around and he wants to have Flynn sentenced in a very unjust way. Oh, that just got me when I read that. It's like, yeah, right. And it's just very interesting. A lot of the questions she asks in this part has to do with the minimum sentencing and different things like that. And pretty much she's describing what the liberal judges would do, because they're the ones that if the sentencing law said you had to give them between this amount of time and this amount of time, they would toss out the book and just do what they felt. And so that's what she's asking here. Would you do that? Well, no, he's not going to. He says, I would follow the rule, the decisions that we have down. He keeps saying that over and over. She does it's just her attitude when she does things like this. It's the same as was on stage with Vice President Pence. Just not a likable person. Anyway, here's the ad that he did. It's kind of a geeky picture. I don't think I would have put that as the thumbnail. But this is the ad when he was running for Attorney General. So I'll leave that. And he makes the distinction back here between the time that he was running for Attorney General, which is a political position, and you do take a stance on different political issues like pro-life and things like that. But it's a different mindset than when you become a judge. When you become a judge, you're more focused on setting your opinions aside and you're looking just at the law. And again, the reason that they're asking these questions is because their liberal judges can't do that. They can't set aside their emotions. They can't set aside their own beliefs to rule solely for what the law says. And it's the conservatives that actually do that. So, yeah. Anyway, just thought you would be interested to hear all that about it. It was something that the Knights of Columbus, yeah. And so Mazie Hirono, as far as I could tell, and Kamalalala think that the Knights of Columbus is an evil group and that they are extremists. Yeah, I would not consider the Knights of Columbus an extremist group, but that's what they think. They pretty much think that anybody who holds to Christian values or, Protestant or Catholic, either one, they believe that they're extremists. We're extremists. We're just way out in left field. Nobody believes like we do. I really think they need to get out of their bubble. They need to see what real America is like. It's too bad. It can't be a mandatory thing to make people who are going to go into Congress, make them live in 2 or 3 different parts of the country so they see what it's like to live in a big city and see what it's like to live in the country. And, yeah, I don't know that it would work, but it might help them get a little bit more perspective. So just real quick, I want to go back over my list again for people who won a prize during the live stream when we were doing the trivia contest, or Triva contest, considering I misspelled trivia. But anyway, these are the people you need to make sure that you go to Truthification Chronicles. Let me show you where that's at. You go here, then you go to Contact, and there's a form here you need to fill out. It may give you a kind of funky response, but it does go through, okay? So, yeah, you can contact me this way. So you can do that, and it'll send it to me. I need to have your real address so I can send you something. And these are the people. Watchman, and I think you already sent me an email. Thad Nipper, Holy Cats, HB. Somebody else sent. Oh, I know. HB. Texas, Janet, Starrell Palmer also sent me an email. Paul and Bear, Michelle Gossett, Rachel Friedenberg, Philly Girl. I'm reading my nephew's writing and it's not that great. Marie Fulton, Pat Brockman, Ladybug, and Richard Cherry. You were the ones that got prizes, so please make sure that you go to this contact form and send me your information. It goes just to me. I promise I will not send you anything else. You do not get your name put on a list of any kind or anything like that. It just emails me, your address, your physical address, so I can send that. That's all it's going to be for. I promise. Okay. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.